The Virgin Islands are an archipelago comprising approximately 60 islands, rocks, and keys, and covers an area of 59 square miles. The Virgin Islands are located in the northeastern Caribbean, approximately 60 miles east of Puerto Rico and 5 kilometers northeast of the United States Virgin Islands. Geologically, these islands belong to the Greater Antilles, and with the United States Virgin Islands, rise from the Puerto Rican Shelf. The largest of the 16 inhabited islands are Tortola, Anegada, Virgin Gorda, and Jost van Dyke. The territorial sea of the Virgin Islands covers a much larger area of 575 square miles and extends 3.5 miles from the low water line.
The Virgin Islands are a territory of the United Kingdom and enjoys a relatively stable and prospering service-based economy, which is dominated by tourism and financial services sectors. In 2009, these sectors contributed 30.2% and 15.8% respectively to GDP, which was estimated at $876 million for the said year. In 2009 and 2010, tourism expenditure was estimated to be $369 and $389 million for the respective years. Of the some 42 islands, 16 are inhabited with an estimated population of 29,537 in 2010. Between 1991 and 2010, the population increased by almost 60%. This increase is largely due to employment-driven immigration, which contributes between 2000 and 2010.
The Virgin Islands are characterized by steep slopes with limited soil development as a consequence of a generally dry climate. The climate is subtropical, moderated by the northeast trade winds, and has a distinguishable wet and dry season. Sheltered hilltops receive the highest levels of rainfall, about 70 inches per year, while low-lying, exposed, and coastal areas tend to be the driest and receive approximately 40 inches per year. The highest point, Sage Mountain, on the main island of Tortola, rises to 1,780 feet. The Virgin Islands has approximately 150 sandy beaches across its collective coastline, 10 to 15 of which are widely used due to their easy accessibility. With the exception of the limestone island of Anegada, the Virgin Islands are the tops of a submerged mountain range consisting of volcanic and sedimentary rocks. Hill slopes are uniform and steep and are often in excess of 40 degrees and cut extensively with drainage channels called guts, which extend to the coastline. Due to the geographic location and topography, the Virgin Islands are vulnerable to a wide array of natural hazards, including earthquakes, hurricanes, and tsunamis, among others. Much of the population and critical infrastructure are located in low-lying coastal areas and are exposed to possible severe impacts from inland and coastal flooding, from flash floods and storm surge events. The islands lie on an active plate boundary, which makes earthquakes a constant threat to the area. The capital, Road Town, is comprised largely of reclaimed land that is susceptible to liquefaction in the event of a major earthquake. Apart from natural hazards, the VI is also susceptible to a number of technological hazards and health-related events, such as pandemics. With increasing frequency of vulnerability due to impacts from climate change, countries like the Virgin Islands face situations in which scarce resources earmarked for development projects have to be diverted to relief and reconstruction following disasters, resulting in impeded economic growth and sustainable development.
The Department of Disaster Management is located at number 3 Wayland Road, McNamara. It is home to the government department responsible for the territory's overall disaster management program. Our mission is to reduce the loss of life and property attributable to disasters by ensuring that adequate preparedness and mitigation measures, response and recovery mechanisms are established to counteract the impact of natural and technological hazards. For all your disaster preparedness needs, feel free to contact the DDM at our new number, 468-4200, to speak with one of our knowledgeable staff. That's 468-4200. Or you can visit our website at www.bviddm.com. The Department of Disaster Management, your life-saving connection. Knowing the functions of the siren and emergency broadcast systems is a very important part of being prepared. The purpose of the siren system is to alert persons that are outdoors of pending danger. Once a siren is sounded outside of normal testing times, which is every fourth Friday at 2 p.m., the public is advised to tune in to ZBVI, ZKing, ZCCR, or ZRAD for emergency information from the National Emergency Operations Center, or NEOC. Knowing what to do in an emergency can be the difference between life and death.
Prior to 1983, there was no national disaster organization in the Virgin Islands. There was a very limited communication system between islands, not even a trained shelter manager. In 1983, a desk officer, the late Mr. Robert Creaky, was assigned to the office of the Deputy Governor. Another person that was deeply involved with the development of the Disaster Preparedness Office was Mr. Elton Georges.
When I became Deputy Governor in 1983, around the middle of 1983, at that time, what we now call disaster management, was just a small part of the responsibility of one officer in the Deputy Governor's office. And so that officer had a number of responsibilities, of which disaster management was one. And really, the organization at that time consisted just of an umbrella committee called the National Emergency Advisory Committee, or the National Emergency Advisory Council, which met once a year before the hurricane season to review the state of readiness of the territory for disaster. And that committee comprised of a lot of the key government officials, the departments concerned, plus voluntary agencies like the Red Cross and some of the churches and so on. And the Deputy Governor, as a Deputy Governor, I was chairman of that council. During the early 90s then, we began to develop. We got a summer student at some point by the name of Charlene Dabrio, who came on to work in the summer and help out, and the rest is history as far as that's concerned. Our budget began to grow as we began to we began to do more programs, to do our own training programs, to develop skills, shelter management, things like that, and to do more promotion. One of the things that from the very first, the little department, we knew we had a task to do, and they did it very well, which was public information, public education, and educating people about the hazards, particularly hurricane, of course.
Since the department became independent in 1990 with the employment of its first full-time disaster preparedness coordinator, Ms. Jennifer Worrell, it is now one of the leading national disaster organizations in the Caribbean region. The Department of Disaster Management operates under the legal authority of the Deputy Governor's Office. The VI Disaster Management Act 2003 policies, plans, programs, organizational structure, and disaster management processes all endorse and incorporate the concept of comprehensive disaster management, CDM. The Virgin Islands CDM system is a legislative framework that details the disaster management roles and responsibilities of the Governor, the Director of DDM, and the obligations of public officers and other persons. It also establishes the National Disaster Management Council, NDMC, the National Emergency Operations Center, NEOC, a national alert system, and instruments for international cooperation. So what does the department really do? The DDM coordinate all activities related to disaster preparedness, mitigation, response, and recovery. They monitor hazard mitigation programs and evaluate the effectiveness of mitigation activities. They also review and approve agency and sector plans for managing and responding to the impacts of natural and man-made hazards. The DDM is responsible for documenting national resources and providing training and simulation exercises to update and inform plans and procedures. They offer training to various stakeholders, including contractors, builders, and homeowners, on safer building practices. The DDM operates the National Emergency Operations Center with reliable and up-to-date emergency communications and early warning systems, and provides official information pertaining to potential hazards before, during, or after impact. The DDM is dependent on partnership arrangements to support their work.
The Department of Disaster Management is located at number 3 Wayland Road, McNamara. It is home to the government department responsible for the territory's overall disaster management program. Our mission is to reduce the loss of life and property attributable to disasters by ensuring that adequate preparedness and mitigation measures, response and recovery mechanisms are established to counteract the impact of natural and technological hazards. For all your disaster preparedness needs, feel free to contact the DDM at our new number, 468-4200, to speak with one of our knowledgeable staff. That's 468-4200. Or you can visit our website at www.bviddm.com. The Department of Disaster Management, your life-saving connection.
The department achieves all of this work through effective management and training across 5 major program areas. Not surprisingly, the first of these 5 areas is managed by the DDM director and is directly responsible for the overall management of the DDM and its staff and continuous monitoring of the overall CDM policy and CDM strategy and programming framework using the monitoring, evaluating, and reporting system. The director also participates in strategic national committees, such as the Planning Authority and environmental committees, regional bodies like the Caribbean Disaster Emergency Management Agency, CDM. The coordination and management of the NEOC during activation in response to hazard events or emergencies are also managed by the director. The Emergency Operations Program area encompasses critical aspects related to emergency and hazard response capacity, including community preparedness, disaster relief, shelters, capacity building, and emergency systems and communications. Community vulnerability assessments and community profiling are conducted under this program area to identify a community's exposure to hazards and its ability to withstand and recover from hazard impacts. Ongoing management and monitoring of 32 emergency shelters and 11 marine shelters takes place under this program area.
This is actually one of our primary shelters. Our primary shelter is basically a shelter that has all the amenities of home. You have sleeping areas, you have bathrooms, showers, kitchen areas. It's going to be like your little home away from home.
The DDM works closely with other government departments, non-government organizations, churches, businesses, and agencies to ensure emergency plans are put in place for the shelter, welfare, and provision of relief for persons in the territory during a disaster.
Exercise. A tsunami warning has been issued for the Virgin Islands. Persons in low-lying areas are asked to move to higher ground immediately. Please continue to watch CBN Channel 51.
This Emergency Operations Program area is also responsible for the maintenance of the Emergency Response System. National Communications Control Center is located at the DDM building in McNamara on the island of Tortola, and provides the NEOC with emergency telecommunications and early warning systems required for necessary information transfer before, during, and after a disaster. The emergency communication systems consist of the National Emergency Broadcast System, warning sirens, and weather stations, seismic stations, automated text warning messages via cell phone and television, the VHF radio emergency network, satellite phones, and data FM radios in all schools and critical facilities. In addition, regional and international partnerships have been established and are continuously maintained with the Puerto Rico Strong Motion Program, Puerto Rico Seismic Network, and the Tsunami Warning Centers in Alaska and the Pacific. These relationships allow for up-to-date and accurate monitoring and emergency alert activation for earthquakes and tsunamis in the Virgin Islands. The Hazard Mitigation Planning and Development Program area involves the assessment of mapping and modeling of various hazards such as hurricanes, earthquakes, flooding, and landslides, which are likely to affect the VI. This information provides the public and private sectors with the ability to develop appropriate hazard mitigation strategies and measures in order to prevent or reduce the occurrence of a disaster in the territory. This critical program area has grown steadily over the years since the completion of the Hazard Risk and Vulnerability Assessment for the territory in 1997. The Quantified Risk Assessment Project built upon the HRAP data and was incorporated in 2006. The data produced from this project is currently being used to enhance the planning and development process. The Senior Technical Planning Manager and Technical Planning Officer use the hazard data to conduct hazard vulnerability assessments and provide recommendations to improve building standards and reduce impacts from poor development and natural hazards. The Comprehensive Disaster Management Mainstreaming and Recovery Planning Program area is focused on ensuring that CDM is mainstreamed in government ministries and sectors. It includes a focus on disaster and emergency planning and related testing and updating. In addition, this area envisions the establishment of CDM liaison officers in each government ministry, department, or statutory board to further mainstream risk and hazard management initiatives. Recovery planning in this area seek to incorporate measures in reestablishing a stable, social, physical, and economic basis for communities affected by a significant hazard impact or disaster. This program area also is responsible for the capacity building, which focuses on the provision of training for emergency responders and community emergency response teams, as well as volunteers. Effective training and simulation exercises for the territory have been continuously held on an annual basis and have included international, regional, and local exercises for tsunamis, earthquakes, oil spills, pandemic, and several more natural and technological hazards. The Public Information Awareness and Education Program area seeks to reduce disaster vulnerability by increasing the public's awareness, understanding, and capability to anticipate and cope with extreme conditions of hazards and their disastrous effects. This is achieved mainly through the application of knowledge, attitudes, and practices, surveys, and the implementation of public education programs, and the dissemination of information to the public, including both accurate and timely hazard disaster information. Media campaigns on various disasters and ensuring that accurate and timely weather and seismic information is available to the public. 2 local television shows are produced under this program area, The Focus Show and The Situation Report. These shows discuss issues in disaster management and provide the general public with access to educational material that will enhance their ability to prepare for natural hazard events and also how to prevent impacts from the events. Both of these shows are updated regularly on the department's website in order to reach a broader audience. The Department of Disaster Management has come a long way since its first assignment of a desk officer back in 1983. The territory of the Virgin Islands relies on the essential services provided by the tireless and concerted efforts of the professional staff that supports the department. it is not feasible to fully capture all of the important roles and functions that the DDM fulfills under the umbrella of disaster management in the territory or in the region. However, the accomplishments achieved by the department over the years speak for themselves.